Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes, Start Your Morning Right. I'm Marlene Cuellar, and thank you for joining us this morning. It is a lovely Wednesday, definitely gearing up to be another hot day here in the city, and there is a whole lot going on. We have an interesting show lined up for you, and starting off, of course, looking at some of the news coming out from yesterday. We saw the continued protest actions coming out from the unions, while on Monday we saw the teachers staging their blockades of the main thoroughfares throughout the country. Yesterday we saw the Public Service Union coming out, and they took their midday hour to make their statement in different parts of the country. And there we see them there coming out with their yellow shirts, with their placards, and of course they're continuing to voice their concerns that they are not supporting the salary cuts and increment freezes. This is, of course, an ongoing situation, and we are aware that there are more protest actions that will continue today. There is a full schedule of activities leading right up to the budget debate starting tomorrow and Friday. We will have all those updates for you in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m., so please be sure to check that out. We're going to get our day started this morning with a bit of motivation, and that means it's time for our Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Often, we go through life run down, but the body's natural state is one of energy, clarity, and balance. There are times in our lives when it seems our bodies are running on empty. We're not sick, nor are we necessarily pushing ourselves to the limit. Rather, the energy we typically enjoy has mysteriously dissipated, leaving only fatigue. Many people grow accustomed to feeling this way because they do not know that it is possible to exist in any other state. Cultivating these virtues in our own bodies so that we can combat feelings of depletion is a matter of developing a refined awareness of the self and then making changes based on our observations. Coping with and healing physical depletion will be easier when you accept that the underlying cause might be more complex than you first imagined. A harried lifestyle or a diet low in vital nutrients can represent only one part of a larger issue affecting your mood, stamina, and energy levels. When you believe that you are ultimately in control of how you feel, you will be empowered to transform yourself and your day-to-day life so that lasting fatigue can no longer gain a foothold in your existence. All right. And of course, that is a great reminder for today. Check in with yourself. It's so important that you're able to recognize when you are feeling particularly, whether it's tired, where you feel out of sorts, that you're able to recognize that there's certain things you can be able to control. And it starts with the level of self-awareness. It starts with being able to recognize when you're going too far, too fast, and taking the right moments to pause and reset, and then keep on going again. So that is the eye opener for this morning. Definitely hope it's the right motivation you need to get your day started. But now we're going to check in on our weather and find out just how hot it's going to be for today. We have our forecaster on the line, Michelle. How are you?
Hey.
Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am good, and you?
All right, so it definitely seems like it's going to be another steamy day, but tell us, is it going to change?
Not much, maybe just a little bit. I don't know if it will be felt, though. Temperatures aren't expected to be as high as, say, yesterday, but I'm still definitely on the high side.
All right, so what's our general situation for today?
All right, we expect mainly fair and warm conditions to prevail.
And our 24-hour forecast?
Okay, it's for mostly sunny skies. A few cloudy spells can be expected over the south this morning and over the mountains this afternoon, and that is because we expect isolated showers or thunderstorms to affect mainly those areas today.
All right, tell us about our winds for today.
Winds will be from the east at about 5 to 15 knots.
And those high temperatures?
All right, along the coast we can expect about 88 Fahrenheit, inland about 95 Fahrenheit, and up in the hills about 82 Fahrenheit.
Okay, so we're not near the 100-degree weather again.
No, but still a bit on the high side, especially inland now with 95.
All right, and for tonight?
Tonight along the coast we can expect about 78 Fahrenheit. As we move inland about 74 Fahrenheit, and up in the hills about 66 Fahrenheit.
All right, and what does the rest of the week look like?
All right, for tomorrow, similar weather, mostly fair and warm, except for the chance of isolated showers or thunderstorms, mainly over the mountains. And then Friday and Saturday, going into the weekend, we see a resumption of the hot, the warmer, let me say warmer than today and tomorrow weather. Yeah, warm to hot weather conditions going into the weekend.
Yeah, I always tell you, your warm is extremely hot for us. But it is approaching the 90s again, at least on the coast. And so that means inland will be hotter over the weekend?
Yeah, we expect 96, could be a bit higher. For Friday, about 96, 98. Similar for Sunday. So, yeah, but definitely Friday and Saturday looks a bit hotter than today, tomorrow, and certainly Sunday. So, yeah, those 2 days seem to be the very, very hot days.
All right, well, we've been warned. Thank you so much for that update, Michelle.
You're welcome.
You have a great day today.
Thanks, and thank you.
Okay. There you have it. Of course, we are in April. This is not surprising for this time of year, but we are going to see hotter days ahead. Today is just a little bit cooler, but it probably won't feel that way. I'm very sure of that. Remember to stay hydrated, stay out of the sun if you can, and check in on the elderly and the little ones that they're also getting in enough water for the day. But we're going to get moving into our show for today, and we have some interesting conversations lined up. Today, I'm going to be joined by Lord Michael Ashcroft for a one-on-one conversation to talk about a number of issues. There's a lot happening in the country. We'll get him to weigh in on what's happening and some of his investments here in Belize. And then, to close off our show for today, we're going to be joined by representatives of the United Nations, and we'll also have representatives of the Belize Coalition of Service Providers. They are currently recruiting Belizeans to apply for jobs at the UN. We'll find out how you can do it, how you qualify, and what's the process you have to go through in the latter part of the show. So we're going to take our first break, but before we do, we got a birthday shout out. And we're saying happy birthday to Brianne Osorio. Brianne, we hope you have a great day today. That comes from all of us here at Channel 5 and Open Your Eyes. We're going to take that break now, and when we come back, I'll be joined by Lord Michael Ashcroft. Please stay tuned.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call internationally. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our equipment are new, PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. there's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. Put that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
Hola Tony.
Hey Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esa es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate, man.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And welcome back. And we are moving into our first conversation for today. As I noted earlier in the show, we are joined by Lord Michael Ashcroft, returning almost a year later for a chit-chat.
Nice to see you again.
Good morning. So, it's been almost a year since you sat with us here on Open Your Eyes, and the conversation then was very early into the pandemic. It's, you know, we were battling our first wave in Belize. You made the choice to weather the lockdown here. What's your reflection 1 year later?
Well, it's been a fascinating year in many respects. Mm-hmm. I actually haven't been back to the United Kingdom since February of last year, and I've spent the whole of the pandemic right up till now within the Caribbean and the United States. And as a businessman, we've got used to dealing on such things as Zoom and Microsoft Teams and WhatsApp video, and there's that will not change as we go into the future, and that's one of the changes of COVID. And in Europe, some of the changes have been how people shop, where Amazon and others that do mail order have boomed, and that won't decrease either, and we'll see in many places the decline of retail shopping. But it's been a difficult period of time. Yeah. For me, the first 6 months, whilst I was mainly here, with the businesses that I'm involved in around the world, the problems that have had to be solved during that period of time has been the hardest that I have worked for the whole of my career. So it's been, and a lot has changed in Belize from the time of an election coming up to an election having been held, the result of that election, the result of the municipals, and now the economic damage that has been caused by COVID, and what path should Belize now take going forward to resolve the serious issues that are here.
I mean, the country has taken a turning point when we moved into the vaccination phase. You've been vaccinated already, right?
I've been vaccinated.
Tell us about your experience.
With the Pfizer. I've also had, as I've traveled around, 15 COVID tests. But that's the new norm for the time being anyway.
Do you think this leads us closer to the light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, COVID, I suspect, will be around for another couple of years or so, but not at the same intensity. And even where the vaccinations are concerned, it does seem as though we may have to have annual shots, as we do for the flu vaccination. We're going to have to live with the remnants of COVID. It's not going to go away. But I think people are starting to adapt to the new world. The human being is very resilient to change.
You know, you talk about adapting to living with COVID. We're still struggling to get through it. As you noted earlier, the economic fallout globally from this time is one that, of course, has impacted countries across the world, but especially us here in Belize. Let's look at the state of the Belize economy and public finances. I'm sure you've seen the recent budget presentation. The numbers have been tallied as to where we are today. What are your thoughts?
Well, there is no point in running away from the fact that the economy is in a serious condition. There's no point in trying to escape that reality. And so the issue that the politicians and the government has to face is, what is the path now going forward? And you can see that it is not possible to balance the budget as things stand. So something has to break. So the government looks at the expenditure and says that government expenditure, especially wages, civil servants, is a major component of that, and is now, in their view, trying to address that particular issue. And you've seen that the consequences of that and the reaction from the PSU and the teachers, the police, and others to that measure. But this is also a time to have a look at the income side. And I do have a sympathy for the civil servants at the moment of being first in line to take the cut. But I do think that measures should now be taken. And there has to be some dynamic leadership, which the Prime Minister is trying to put together. We have such things as, should we enter an IMF program? Certainly it is something that should be considered. And there's a fear about going into an IMF program. But if Belize puts forward its particular red lines to the IMF in discussions, for example, we're not prepared to devalue our currency, then a program with the IMF will give both technical expertise, it will give access to financing, donor contributions. And so that side of things does have an advantage.
You do understand that there is very little political will, and we've seen successive administrations shy away from enrolling in an IMF program.
Yes, and historically that has been the situation. But like most things in life, we're not faced as a country with best of choices. We're faced with least worst alternatives. And once you start down the path of least worst alternatives, there will always be critics at every move that you have to make. But what you then don't want is to find that we cannot get out of the economic mess for a long period of time, and that investment and the country ranks very poorly in international indices for investments and so on and so forth. So yes, there is a reluctance to enter into a program, but
It's
it doesn't.
not seen as a people-centered approach.
Often is, but even a first approach of dealing, the word that comes up regularly with an IMF program in Belize is retrenchment. But you've also got to have a look at that side of expenditure. For example, is it right as we get older that the retirement age in Belize should be 55? Is that outdated? Because the cost of a non-contributory pension scheme to retire at 55 is a big burden on a small state. So to have a look at things such as that.
So you're saying move the retirement age to 65, older?
What I'm saying is that these are things that need to be considered, but you'll get resistance from it. I mean, how often has someone retired at 55 and then be re-employed at 56 on another contract? And I think off the top of my head, for men, the retirement in the United Kingdom is 67. So pension liabilities are a heavy cost. You've got the areas of, you've got the PSU and the teachers union outside the offices of BTL and SMART saying pay your taxes. The issue is whether those two companies actually do owe any taxes, and both have denied it. You have to have a look at GST. Is the GST at the current rate appropriate? Should it be moved right the way up to 20%? In the United Kingdom, it is 20%. But that has to be coupled with enforcement. And there has to be a stringent audit of businesses and enterprises in Belize. And if necessary, there has to be some jail time. They have to have a good look at whether all the tariffs are being collected at customs.
So this is, and it's interesting, this is a part of what we hear very clearly from the union representatives, that beyond just looking at cutting down wages, you have to look at being able to ensure that there is adequate and aggressive tax collection. These are parts of what the Prime Minister Briceño has outlined in his recovery plan, but a key portion is looking at the debt for this country. You are talking about, I believe the estimate is $10,000 per person. That's what's owed, $4.2 billion. A great extent of that is looking at issues like super bonds and loans that we have outstanding. Currently, a part of that strategy is being able to renegotiate the super bond. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, on the super bond. A long time ago, investors bought the bond at 100 cents on the dollar. But those people are long gone. They have sold out many years ago. I would suspect that the average price of a bondholder is 50 cents on the dollar. Therefore, I believe that consideration should be given to saying to the bondholders, we can't pay at this stage. You know the problems that we have. We'll come back to you later. Meanwhile, instead of trying to restructure the bond once again, is to offer a different instrument, a different debt instrument. For example, to issue Belize US Treasury notes at 50 cents on the dollar, with interest deferred for some time and capital repayments pushed back a little bit, and say to the bondholders that this is your choice. Have received nothing, or receive a treasury note at 50 cents on the dollar, which is your average buy-in price anyway, to which there'll be interest and capital repayments, and Belize has never defaulted on a treasury note. So I think there needs to be some innovative thinking, rather than go into this, let's look for a haircut, let's look for debt relief, let's try and get 30% off the top. So I think an innovative approach is necessary.
But it's also a matter of time, you know, delaying the payments that so far, and we have an upcoming payment next month. It's a matter of getting to a solution, one that is agreeable as soon as possible.
Well, I think it's whether it's agreeable is a matter of debate. Mm-hmm. But there are two things when a country is in the situation it is now. It's immediate cash payments, which is a problem. Mm-hmm. But the second alternative, if you're not is to defer the cash payments. Mm-hmm. In one Caribbean country, for example, where the civil servants are concerned, the government, instead of giving the government employees just cash, a certain proportion of it is in a government long-term bond, which is given to the employees, and then the employees go to a bank and have it discounted to receive the certain amount of cash. So what that government has done is not actually paid out the cash at day one, but put it into a long-term bond in order to recover the economy and be able to afford it. And so it's not to forget that both aspects are important. Avoid immediate payment of cash and put it into the long term. And it's not just the super bond. Yes. We owe a lot of money to Petrocaribe, to Venezuela, for that particular program. Mm-hmm. And so there can be a reasonably aggressive negotiation. Mm-hmm. Venezuela is not in a particularly strong position at the moment. So those have to be done. And you have to tackle areas which the unions talk about, which is corruption. Yeah. That is the part of the elephant in the room. I made the suggestion, and the word has been used, for a Whistleblowers Act. Yes. Now, those are words, but what's the content of that act? A type of suggestion that I put forward was that a whistleblower who provides information that leads to the recovery of cash or assets gets 10% and immunity from prosecution. So that's part of a program that, if the government is serious about corruption, is to follow that path. Mm-hmm. The second one is to have what is called serve a wealth order on people. That the United Kingdom in 2017 passed this piece of legislation, which I'll describe, and I believe Trinidad has just passed it, which is, if somebody demonstrably has assets that the known income does not substantiate why they have those assets, that they're served an order. And if they cannot explain the source of their wealth, the state confiscates those assets. So it depends how serious the country wants to be in remedying some of the problems of the nation that go back a long time and have been built up over a long time. And there are no easy solutions here.
We had a minister on the show said this is a time for tough decisions, Minister of State Chris Koyi, and I think one of the things that you said earlier, and I don't want to lose sight of it, is, you know, you say you have sympathy for the unions, and one of the things that they have been championing is not just saying no to salary cuts. They're asking for some sort of proof that shows that they can trust the administration to be able to cut down on corrupt practices and losing money unnecessarily. You speak of a Whistleblowers Act. That's one of the things that they do have on the table. The response we hear very often is that these things take time. Developing the right legislation takes time. Ensuring we cover the bases takes time.
Yes. And this is why the country, and as I said at the beginning of the conversation, we're not faced with the best of choices, because here you have a chicken and egg. Which comes first? Which comes first, a reduction in the salaries or the measurement to get the economy straight, dealing with the Superbond, a Whistleblowers Act, so on and so forth. One simple one at the moment is we've seen on television the Commission of Inquiry, in which government assets have been sold at substantial discount to market value. Yeah. One of the things that they could start by showing good intent is taking the difference between the market value and the price that were paid and put an income tax assessment on that difference, because that is a benefit in kind out of their employment. It can be taxed. It doesn't get the whole amount back, but is starting to indicate a direction of travel. And what happens is we go round and round in circles here, because there is no perfect solution, there is no perfect timing. And this is where we circle back to the IMF again. And if there's this constant, no, we can't do this, no, we haven't got time for that, no, I shouldn't suffer from this, then what's the future?
Understanding that one of the things you're advocating for an IMF program is one thing, and as I said earlier, it's deemed political suicide for most politicians and how they view it. They don't want to move towards a program that includes things like retrenchment or taking up taxes, because we have a high number of people living in poverty, and some people may just not survive it. But debt sustainability is essential, and it has become a part of the continuous conversation when we speak of whatever actions need to be taken. The IMF has warned that if we continue on this path, that we may very well face a devaluation. Do you think that is a reality?
Yes, of course it is. There is no doubt that by any criteria, the Belize dollar is overvalued against the US dollar. But what we're getting into here is, to every solution there's a problem. Yeah. And the politicians don't want this, this group don't want that. We can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do the other. This Gordian knot has to be cut. And this is where the government, that's got a strong mandate from the November elections, with 4.5 years to run to the next election, is in the best position to start to remedy the defaults of the Belizean economy and the corruption and so on and so forth that is endemic in Belizean society. And you can keep telling me the problems of every solution, but if that's what you want, we got a problem, we can't deal with it, we got a problem, we can't do this, we got a problem, we can't do that, then the consequences will flow. And I don't think Belize has a lot of time before the it's just very unfortunate that COVID hit when it did. Yeah. Because some of these problems may have been sustainable for longer without COVID, and maybe these problems need not have been addressed. But sadly, they are now.
Yeah. This is where we are now. I mean, if you consider exactly what you just said, that is the position that the leadership is currently in being able to find a solution and also mitigate the risks and impact of the Belizean people. And so there are no easy decisions to be made. But there must be, and noting the investment climate at this time, is this an ideal environment? What's the level of interest that you think investors have at this moment to actually invest money in Belize?
Well, first of all, Belize needs foreign investment, needs the foreign currency. That's a fact of the matter. So what the government needs to do is to make it as easy as possible for that investment to come in, and not tie up foreign investment with bureaucracy at the central bank and make it difficult for an investor to be able to come into the country. But can you really see a major investor coming into infrastructure into Belize or any other type of business until they can see a clear path to solve the economic issues of the country? There seems to be a forgetfulness that international capital is mobile. It does not have to come to Belize. The choices for international capital are in every country in the world, and that's where the capital will go.
And from what you have seen, as you noted, you've been moving around the Caribbean. You've been working in other countries as well. Is there more of an openness in other countries?
Well, it's tough for most small nations. It's tough. But different solutions are found in different countries. I'm watching Antigua that is developing. It's got one of its islands, one of the major tourist projects running into the billions is being developed. But in that particular case, there has been no obstruction to that investment. They haven't got...
What do you call obstruction?
Obstruction in terms of environmental impacts, because there are times when a country's economic development must compromise with some environmental issues. The conditions that apply, the concessions that are given, the land that is sometimes given to create that investment. So, but I'm sure the government is having a look at other Caribbean nations as to how they're coping and what they're doing. But something has to break here.
Now, tourism rebound is an important part of the conversation here. You know, in 2019, we'd seen sustained growth in the number of visitors arriving in country. Over 1.7 million people arrived. Cruise ship passengers as well as overnight passengers. Clearly, you know, COVID took a sledgehammer to those numbers. The return of tourism, at first the projections were 2 to 3 years, but we have seen more tourists returning to the country since the rollout of vaccination. Do you think that the rebound will be faster?
No, and I think the danger is the United States in the last few days has said they've probably got another 30 countries that they're going to put on the red list. And our hope and expectation is that Belize does not go on the US red list, because that will start to devastate and slow down substantially the return of tourists to Belize. Therefore, that interplays with the COVID and the vaccination program to be able to keep that sustained. Tourism has been, I can remember I had a conversation with the previous Prime Minister, Dean Barrow, at the start a year ago, and said COVID will give challenges to a Prime Minister who won't know until afterwards whether the path chosen was correct, because we're in a new world here. And in hindsight, I could possibly argue that we kept our airport, not the land borders, but we kept our airport closed longer than we should have done, to a detrimental effect of tourism, because it wasn't, as we have seen, the tourists that brought in COVID. They had to come in with their PCR test. It was the border jumpers and the informal smuggling routes from Guatemala and Mexico that caused the issue and the spread of COVID. So perhaps we needn't have shut down as long, but that is 2020 hindsight, and you can't.
And no one would have known at that time.
And no one would have known.
Yeah.
So, but there'll still be a fear among certain Americans to travel still at this stage. That may take another year or so. Mm-hmm. But I think that so long as we don't get on a U.S. red list, so long as we continue with the policy that we have at the border, in other words, for air travel, just proof of vaccination and 2 weeks after the second jab to be able to enter without any further test, that we accept an antigen as opposed to a PCR test. I don't believe there's any other countries in the Caribbean who have got that type of program. And I think if we can sustain that, then we may have a reasonable winter coming up. And we just got to cross our fingers and hope. And fortunately, that tourism side doesn't play heavily on the economic problems that the nation has, because people come to enjoy the country and its facilities and
even with the return of tourists, I think there has to be a very sober look of how it will impact the economy. It won't be an immediate jab like the vaccine to get us out of this situation. But speaking of that topic, I know your son is opening his hotel very soon.
May the 6th, he opens. It's been quite a program for him because he started the construction there pre-COVID. He started it with a bonded fixed price contract that he couldn't stop. So he's managed to get through it all, and not only opening on May the 6th, the Elia and San Pedro, but within the next few weeks he'll be announcing the first good, more investment in Belize in tourism, the building of 120 studios on the site next to the current development. Now, the interesting thing for the country, just the dynamics there, these are studios that will be sold, and 90% plus will be foreign currency investors. So if he sells out all those studios, that should bring in about $30 million US into the country, plus nearly 5 million Belize in stamp duty. That is one site. And so there needs to be an encouragement, as long as we can get the passenger flow, that even that type of construction has an impact on the foreign currency immediately on the incoming funds, but then has the ongoing of hotel occupancy as people are paying in US dollars to stay there. So even though there's a vulnerability to tourism, as we've seen, I don't think we have as a nation a choice but to further develop our tourism. And we talk that we should diversify our economy. But again, these words are cheap and the words are easy. But the practical solutions to that are more difficult and will take time.
Yeah. I can see the pride on your face when you speak about the program, the project for your son. Have you been the pusher behind the scene?
No, I mean, I will share something which he'll probably kill me for sharing. But when COVID hit, he said to me, Dad, I may have a problem here. It's because part of the business plan is selling the condos as part of the financing. But these are going to slow up during COVID, and I may have a cash crunch. I may need some help. And to which I said, good luck. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I know what you want me to do. You'd like me to buy some of the condos and put them in your rental program. And he said, you know this project cannot fail. And I said, yes, that's correct. But failure if I have to come in and help, the world will not know of failure, but between you and me, you won't have been able to do it, and you won't like the terms and conditions that I will impose if I have to help when I have liquidity issues in all my other businesses around the world. And I said, I will probably offer you half price for your condos, and I may even want some of your equity. I won't repeat the expletives that he said at the time, but where I'm proud is not just that he completed it, but he did it without coming to me for any financing and found a way through it. And secondly, that he is totally committed to the nation of Belize, and even his kids start schooling on San Pedro in August. So I'm proud that those kids are the fourth generation of Ashcrofts with a connection to Belize. My father came here, myself, Andrew, and his kids.
His children. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
anyway.
So yeah, some tough lessons there that you've been able to pass on. But you noted, what has definitely been a buzz term, talking about diversifying the economy. We had the Minister of Tourism on, and he reminded that diversifying doesn't mean diverting away from tourism. It's ensuring that what we have continues to grow, or what we earn from tourism continues to grow, but not becoming as reliant. This administration introduced the New Growth Industries Ministry, looking at new opportunities that may exist, some that have been have been explored earlier, things like hemp and cannabis, and we always talk about value-added products for the productive sector. Do you think these are ways to get us forward?
I think that clearly in times of an economic crisis, you want to have a look at the goods and services that you're importing and whether you need to bring them in. Do we really need to bring in Perrier water from France into the country and pay foreign exchange for it? But it's also looking at those businesses that create foreign exchange. Now, one of the sectors which is not often talked about in Belize and taking advantage of the English language are call centers. There are, by estimate, already some 5,000 people employed in call centers around the country. Now, the customers are wholly offshore, and so that is foreign currency coming in. The government needs to look very closely at some of the offshore financial services that they are able to develop, because that is all foreign currency coming into the country. Agriculture is a tough one. You are competing with lower labor costs in other countries in agriculture, and you're also dealing with farms in other countries that have thousands and thousands of acres with mass production. So some of the agricultural side is difficult, but the one thing that Belize has for it is where food is concerned as a nation, we are self-sustainable. And that's very positive. You can close the borders down and we can produce enough. Yeah. So diversification is a great word to be used, but finding that path is a little more difficult, where tourism is there to be had and pushed further. And again, it's the least worst alternatives. Is it better to develop what we have, knowing there could be a vulnerability? Do we really think there'll be another COVID? I would hope.
100-year flood or hurricane.
Or a Cat 5 coming through. Yeah. So I would continue to push very hard and encourage inward investment on the tourism sector.
Just to summarize this, because I know I want to move on to some other points. Just what are some of the key points that will impact Belize's recovery from your perspective?
Clearly now not making the tough decisions, or finding every decision has a problem and it's not addressed. And you can see that it's quite possible, hopefully unlikely, that the difficulties of Belize will be sustained for the next will be there for the next few years. How you settle the current dispute has government got itself to a position that it now cannot back off? Time will start to tell. What are the consequences? What are the conditions to which the unions would be prepared to accept a reduction? Are they prepared to see a program that they can believe in, that the issues of income and the corruption and wealth taxes and whistleblowers and the customs get sorted out, and that time will tell. They're tough choices.
But you do seem to share quite a bit in common with what the unions have been saying. You say you're sympathetic towards them.
Yes.
Yeah. And that good governance actions need to be taken now. Indicators to show that this administration is serious about it.
Yes, and I believe the Prime Minister is serious. It's a matter of how you navigate the maze that lies ahead. This is the best chance for the government of Belize to be able to make those tough and long-term decisions. But just look at the consequences. You raise the retirement age to 60. A lot of people are going to object to this. You're going to make a pension scheme contributory. You're going to have a lot of people object to this. You're going to put GST up to 20%. A lot of people are going to object to this. But it needs enforcement behind it. You won't upset too many people if you get customs sorted out.
Or collect on outstanding taxes.
Yes, but to be very careful on outstanding taxes, that they're legally due. And that's why I think there was a mistake going after BTL and SMART.
Now, you know, when you mentioned earlier the legislation for whistleblowers, it's like the pressure that was made to sign UNCAC and many other legislations and bodies that we do have in place. Very often we can make a great law, but the enforcement or the political will behind it don't necessarily follow up.
Well, you can't say the Integrity Commission has fulfilled its mandate. You can't say the Contractor General has fulfilled his mandate. So enforcement is key. And certainly this is something the unions should bite onto.
When you look at the past two elections, you know, the resounding win that the People's United Party has been able to earn, it is a decisive mandate for change in a time where tough decisions, as we've said, had to be made. What are your thoughts on this?
I smiled a little bit on it because every political party in the world, as it comes up to election time, talks about the need for change. And once they get into power, there's no change or little change, unless it's a very radical left-wing, right-wing, as there is in the USA. But we don't have that radical philosophy between the two parties. So are we going to have a repetitive cycle that, yes, change is necessary?
You mean the fundamentals, the principles that guide the party?
Correct.
They aren't clearly defined or on opposing sides.
Well, it's very difficult in Belize to be able to define whether one party is left of center, right of center. It's tended to be that the parties have grown up amongst the groups of people that they've always been friendly or familiar with.
All right, well, what we're going to do is take a quick pause in this conversation. There's quite a bit more to get into, so we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Lord Michael Ashcroft. So please, stay tuned.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. Stronger together. The Belize Bank. Our country. Your bank.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart. Tired of being measured or cut off when you need to be connected? It's a fact that when you sign up for Smart's Plus plan, you get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. And it's a fact that you can sign up with your group of up to 5 members for Smart's Share plans and up to 40 members for Smart's Enterprise plans for unlimited talk, text, and data. Smart has the true unlimited plans. That's a fact. Be smart and live smart.
"2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected."
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And we're back, and we are continuing our conversation this morning. I am joined by Lord Michael Ashcroft, who has stopped in to have a bit of a conversation and catch up. Now, we spoke a bit about the situation in Belize and the state of the economy and some of the things that you think might work in getting us out of this space. But let's focus on some of your interests. We can start off by looking at the progress of the Belize Bank and Scotiabank merger.
Yes, that's now being completed. Mm-hmm. And so we're having a good look at where the business goes from this particular point. But one of the most exciting things, which again the bank is hoping to announce and has already been advertising on TV, is something called eCash. In which you download an app, you have your money in a wallet, you don't need a bank account, and you're able to transmit businesses. So if you download onto your wallet a couple of $100 Belize, you can go into a shop, you just you have your codes, you pay for it. There will be various merchants that can reload your wallet for you. And so this is moving towards a cashless society. Yeah. So this will be quite an exciting development. Yeah. That will be hopefully will be formally launched within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. And you know, many of us are already at that cashless point. This makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope you download your own app and start loading up your wallet.
But beyond looking at the new products that are coming out from the bank, the opportunity in being able to merge the largest and second largest banks in Belize, what does that mean for the future, the vision of what will now be this expanded bank?
Well, part of it is a hope that we can. There is in central bank at the moment a fully drafted Securities Act, which would enable the banks to be such things as providing bond financing for companies and to broaden the scope. And I think that type of activity needs to be there. And I think there should be more syndication of loans to businesses as well, that it's not just one bank. The Belize Bank will talk to another bank and say, let's have a combined bond to help develop on this project, so on and so forth. So I think that will give a greater scope. But also to do this merger during a COVID or a difficult economic time, there's certain risks involved. We're having to compromise on a number of customers who are running into difficulties, and you have to accept that that is part of the cycle, and working with government. But it's also when it comes to new businesses, or we talked about diversification. Government needs to get its plans together as to what it's prepared to do, because you can't have a bank or any bank lending 100% to any venture, taking 100% of the downside, whilst the business owner loses nothing if it goes wrong, but gains all the upside. So there's lots of challenges over the next year. For the bank. But I'm pleased to have made the confidence of making that investment, because it had to be none of the purchase price came from within Belize Resources. It was all a foreign currency transaction, so there was no outflow.
Which was a big concern early on.
Yeah, so we managed to do that without any capital outflows. And Nova Scotia were determined to leave the jurisdiction. They saw no future in Belize in terms of their global planning. And so they're only keeping their branches in Trinidad, Jamaica.
The bigger markets.
And the bigger markets.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good for Belize.
Yeah, and it's in the final stages of completion?
It's completed now.
Yeah.
So it's done, and the Scotia signs have come down, and
it was a historic day. We had some video rolling of that when those signs came down.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Port of Belize. We know that this has definitely been a very contentious topic locally. Let's step back for a moment and talk about there's been talks of a port at that particular location for a very long time. What's the appeal of having a port there?
Well, it's not. It's broader than a port. I think the first thing to understand is what is called the Waterloo proposal is onshore berthing for the largest ships, the Oasis class ships that will be coming through in the next few years, plus a bulk handling facility in order to help imports and exports from Belize. And industry in Belize has been saying we have no bulk handling facility. So the Waterloo project is a combination. It's not just for a cruise port. So government policy has to be along the lines of, do we want a bulk handling facility as part of the exercise? It'll create something like 2.5 direct and indirect jobs in the south side and Port Loyola. and it's a 200 million US dollar project, most of which will be foreign currency. I believe it's the biggest ever proposed infrastructure project for Belize. And at this point of the economic cycle, rather brave.
Now, there has been approval for 2 other ports at this time, and there is the port in the south, Harvest Key. Many look at this project and say, well, do we really need another docking facility?
No, and all these are fair arguments. And this is what decisions have to be made. From my personal point of view, if there is no Waterloo project, on one hand, there'll be a sigh of relief. Because for me to embark at my age in trying to put a project together of this size is no mean feat. But it's also important to understand for those that feel a certain animosity towards me personally, is at the end of the day on this project, I will only personally have something like 20 or 25%. The majority will be the international port operators and international investors. But if Belize does not want the major cruise, the Oasis class, to come, that must be a policy decision, because they have made it clear that they will not come to ports in which there is tendering onto the onshore. And being onshore, in Belize it's about 60% come ashore because of the tendering. Onshore, they estimate that 90% will come. So there'll be a greater amount of tourists that will come ashore to be able to spend money and enjoy the country. And so it's not necessarily, what has happened so far is the environmentalists have given the go-ahead. But that's not a sort of a government type approval. Yeah. And so time will tell as to what happens.
The main pushback has been from the environmental groups who are concerned about this level of the impact on the environment.
Well, just to get that clear, yeah. The environmentalists believe that offshore dumping of the dredging will affect either the reef or the sea at that particular point. In the first instance, Waterloo went round the world and managed to get scientific evidence to actually demonstrate that this was not necessarily the case. But the government has made it clear that politically it's difficult to accept there'll be offshore dumping. Having said that, Waterloo has informed the environmentalists that it can go forward with onshore dumping. So that's the situation it is at the moment. But clearly, there can't be 3 ports built, but commercial reality will bite in at some point. And everyone will go running around having a pop at everybody else. But that's Belize, isn't it? We know that will happen, especially when you have 3 proposals.
Major investments of
major investments.
Yeah.
But and I'll tell you quite frankly.
So then, what's the appeal? If you feel, if you're saying that you're not the first again, that's what you're saying. What's the appeal of having this project at this location?
Well, I've just explained. Yeah. Onshore berthing, a bulk handling facility, regeneration of the south side, and catering for a greater impact. Because the combination of the bulk handling facility bringing in foreign currency, more foreign currency coming in through the bigger Oasis ships coming in. And isn't one of the things the government wants is more foreign currency? Or is this too difficult?
Can you have one without the other? Can you move forward with the bulk storage?
No.
Why not?
And that will not happen. Because for the bulk handling, you need dredging too.
Okay.
So you'll have the same issues. But Waterloo's made it abundantly clear there isn't one without the other. So it's not the end of the world for me. I would like the challenge of doing something that I believe is right for the country.
So where do you see this going?
No idea.
And for the future of the receivership itself?
Well, that's only a small part that is sort of embraced within the project.
But you're still pushing for it to go through.
No, we'll go down the process, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. As I've explained, to put something of this size together takes a lot of work, and sadly, I'm 75. So for me to really make sure, because I won't enter into any project that can't be completed. So whether it happens, time will tell. But if it does happen, I will personally ensure that it does happen.
Now, I hear it seems that this is a particular project, and we've seen you be very firm before in ensuring that when you're passionate about a particular investment. I'm thinking of the stories that you have shared over time, of the challenges you faced as an investor. And this seems to be one that can be added to the chapter of your BTL saga, right?
Well, I don't think there's much mileage now in sort of revisiting what happened in Belize Telemedia, except to the extent of what happens now. Now, we've talked earlier on about economy and foreign currency. Now, Belize Telemedia is one of the paths to which foreign currency can be obtained. Because Belize Telemedia could be sold to an international operator and bringing in foreign currency into the country to solve some of the difficulties that we have. However, to be able to do that, there has to be a plan. And when I heard somebody say, well, it'll take another 25 years, you sort of sink into your seat in despair. And when you hear things that the Belize Telemedia are thinking of buying cable companies, where cable is a dying industry, and you say, what is happening here? Is there a plan? Or is Belize Telemedia, which is up to its ears in debt now, not paying dividends, bearing in mind who the shareholders are? Shareholders are the government of Belize, Social Security Board, and the central bank, making up, I think, 95% of the ownership of Belize Telemedia. The amount of dividends that they're getting is now pittance. So there really needs to be an absolute plan and focus by the government. What is the future of Belize Telemedia? And that's a nice little challenge. But doing next to nothing, or just hoping it'll turn around, won't happen.
It's highly unlikely that this company will be sold once again, especially after all the efforts that were made to nationalize it, and putting it within the Constitution that Belizeans should hold on to this particular to the utility. What other options in being able to turn it around?
Here you are again.
Yeah.
To every solution, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And so, whether it's in the Constitution or not, the government has the numbers to be able to change all of that, should they wish to do so. But if you actually believe that Belize Telemedia is a fundamental jewel to the nation of Belize, without which the country has no dignity, That's a point of view. I don't share it.
But what, and that's what I'm saying, what are the options in moving it forward? Are there none? From your perspective, you used to own the company.
My answer is the plan has to, my plan would be that this is a valuable source of foreign currency. And the plan has to be to obtain the maximum foreign currency, not just Belize Telemedia, but other assets that the government has, which can be converted into foreign currency. But if you're going to find a problem to every solution again, oh, we don't like this, we don't like this, we don't like this, we can't do this, this will upset this, well, then you must face the consequences of that as a nation.
Speaking, you know, when I hear your perspective on issues like this, I think that's perhaps the greatest challenge of leaders in government. We spoke yesterday to the Minister of Health. He spoke of a transition from private sector to public life. And there's a difference. There's a difference between where your interest lies. It is critical to see managing the country from the economic standpoint. That's essential to how people are going to live in this country. But at the same time, you are the leader of the people and you must take care of their interests. It's a tough balancing act in what is, I have said before, an unenviable position in this time and current economy.
Well, I deal throughout the years with prime ministers, premiers, presidents of a number of countries, and the whole dialogue is often about the problems that they have, and I sit there thinking, should I actually tell them, A, they wanted the job, and B, if they want sympathy, probably the only place they're going to find it is in a dictionary halfway between shit and syphilis. But the wailing of the difficulties. But you shouldn't put yourself in a position to be leader of a nation if you can't make the tough decisions. And if you are somebody that every time there's a problem to a solution, you find no answer or back off, resign.
Are we still talking about your perspective on the current leadership of this country?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I'm generalizing to leadership. I've got a great sympathy for this government in addressing these particular issues. Yeah. They're not to be underestimated, and the path will be tough. Yeah. But if the path is a constant populist one, you don't find the solutions. If you try to please everyone, you don't find the solutions.
I'm sure you've been able to have an audience with ministers and with leaders at this point. Have you shared this view?
I think everyone who sits down with me in private knows where I'm coming from.
Yeah. And looking forward for you, what are some of the things, I mean, is there potential for future development or future investment in Belize?
By international investors, it's going to be very difficult in the short term. Mm-hmm. For me personally, no.
Why is that?
Why would I, at my age, want the difficulties and aggravations?
Mm-hmm. You've spoken many times of your love and connection for Belize.
Yes, very much. Mm-hmm. But that love doesn't mean you lead an unhappy life as a consequence. And so, but then in Belize, you can only, an investor invests in what they have a strength. Somebody says to me, you know, we can develop massive cattle farms. I have no expertise in developing cattle farms. or any other type of business. I have enjoyed around the world in backing other entrepreneurs. And if there are some entrepreneur, I'm happy to discuss something.
Yeah. So, you know, looking forward, when you speak of wanting to ensure that you can be able to invest in developing projects, I mean, I hear from you almost a frustration as to where you are today. And is there a sense of openness on your end in being able to still contribute back towards the country?
Well, openness to contribute to a country means there has to be serious dialogue within the country. You can't do things unilaterally. Somebody can't just appear in Belize. There has to be, in a small nation, you have to be able to work with the government. You have to work with the opposition.
All right. And let's shift things over to your neck of the woods. We know that on Saturday we saw Prince Philip laid to rest, and there has been quite a bit of conversations about the British royals, and you know, I want to get your insight on what's happening there.
Well, Prince Philip is unique and has been unique in holding the royal family together since World War II. Is not to forget that Prince Philip was actually present at the Japanese surrender at the end of World War II in Tokyo. And he's been a powerful and influential figure who's been very popular. So a major loss. It's regretful that there's been the fallout between Prince Harry and Meghan and the royal family. It's a pity that there was the Offray interview. You know, families often say we may have our disputes or our disagreements, but we don't wash our laundry in public. And so that side, the royal family. What is more interesting to me, the Queen, I think it's this week, is 95. I think the number is correct, that she is the head of 16 nations, the realms, of which Belize is one of them. The three biggest ones being Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And as countries like Australia, that had the British heritage, but have taken immigration from all over the world to develop their population and their country, where the links to the old British Crown have diluted considerably. How many of those realms, 16 realms, after the Queen dies, will seek to be republics or change their constitution? And it'd be interesting, the reaction in Belize here at that time. I suspect nothing will happen in any of the realms now until that time when it's King Charles III comes on the throne. But maybe at some point you could ask some of your politicians how they feel.
We've had the conversations here or there. We know in Barbados that has been discussed, as well as Australia. So the possibilities do exist. Do you think it's a turn in how people see the monarchy and the Commonwealth nations?
I think I'm a supporter of the Commonwealth of 57 nations. I'm one of the very few people that has been to every Commonwealth country. And I even attended one of the Commonwealth conferences in Rwanda when Said Musa was Prime Minister. So I'm a great fan of that family of nations. So I hope that it holds itself together, but there is a movement by some of the countries within the Commonwealth that whilst the Queen is head of the Commonwealth as a titular title, that should Prince Charles or King Charles as he would be should it continue? Or should there be some democratic election amongst the countries as to who should head up the Commonwealth? I think these are all issues to come. But I just hope the solidity of the Commonwealth holds together.
I'm sure you tuned into the funeral. Any standout moments for you that really...
Oh, some of the choristers and the buglers and some of the old songs that were there, whether it's Jerusalem and I thought in its scale down. But the image which will always be with me is the Queen sitting on her own.
Yeah.
And that just summed up the sadness.
Yeah. Something we have not
the whole
seen.
event. But what is also quite a lot of people here in Belize actually got up early in the morning to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming in today. Anything else you'd like to say before we close off?
No, I think we've had a good run around, as we always do when we actually get together. But thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, and thank you for being here. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
And we're back, and we're moving into our second conversation for today. As we mentioned earlier in the show, there is a career webinar coming up on the 27th, and it's all about opportunities that exist for Belizeans to apply for jobs in the United Nations. And we have with us to tell us more about this, we have Eva Jansen, who is the officer in charge of the Department of Management Strategy, and she's at the UN headquarters in New York. And we're also joined by Dr. Dion Chamberlain, the chairman of Belize Coalition of Service Providers. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us and to tell us about opportunities that people may not know are available to them. Let's start off, if we can get from you, Dr. Chamberlain, the connection that has been made with the Belize Coalition of Service Providers for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marlene, for having us. A few months ago, we were contacted by the United Nations team interviewing us actually for our interest in being a part of this program. I don't know if you're aware, but Belize and several other countries throughout the world is underrepresented within the United Nations for employment. And during this year, as they are seeing retirements and job opportunities come up, the United Nations wants to ensure that there is equal opportunity for countries like Belize, who are underrepresented at this time, and women very heavily, to become more involved. And so we realized that this was a perfect partnership. The Coalition of Service Providers, we are there to assist anyone and any association or business within the service sector be able to export their services. And during COVID-19, where there has been massive job loss, even in very senior management positions, the closing of banks and different areas, we do realize that there's a lot of talent available in Belize, but the opportunities for employment are very minimal. And so we were excited to join this team in bringing this to Belize so that we can actually help those who are interested in working abroad, because this is for the brave, this is for the bold, who want to live in countries like in Africa and give back, because that's what the United Nations does in every one of their different organizations. It's all about giving back and making a difference to the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of brave and bold in Belize. So I want to bring it over from the UN perspective, Eva. Why, clearly, it is important to have adequate representation from countries across the globe. What have you found so far to be the reasons why some countries are underrepresented?
Thank you. That's a really good question. I think mostly people are not aware that we have jobs in all areas, opportunities that range from, let's say, architects, biologists. We have people like me, human resources officers, so a lot of jobs in administration actually. We do have jobs, obviously, in human rights, political affairs, and legal. But we really span the entire cross of possibilities. We look for teachers, we look for language professionals, as you can imagine, with all our conferences. So we always look for translators and interpreters. We also have internship opportunities. So there's really a lot going on. And I believe that in many countries, we're just maybe a little bit too far away, and that it's not knowledge that is widespread.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you mentioned a key factor there. There's a perception that working within the UN means that you must be with a specific skill set that fits whatever organization you're working with. If it's children, you're looking at child development. If it's some other sector, it has to be specific. But you're saying that the HR actually extends to other areas from management.
That's correct. And I see you have a nice map there on the screen at the moment.
Yeah.
So just to give some more insights, you might know that we are more than 30 organizations within the UN Common System. So I work for the main organization, the Secretariat. But yeah, as you said, there are lots of agencies, funds, and programs that actually offer very specific opportunities for skill sets in niche areas as well. So that could be the Intellectual Property Organization, or I think everybody knows UNESCO or UNICEF. But in the Secretariat, so we deal a lot with political decision making, but we have our very specific mandates to make and keep peace all around the world. And this is where we come to the courageous, the bold ones. And honestly, you know, it's sometimes, maybe that's another reason why we lack applications from some countries. It might sound worse than it is. It is not that dangerous. It is a great life. And it's actually an opportunity to move around, be international, meet new people every few years, you know, learn new languages, get to know new cultures. It is fascinating. It is really a passionate life.
Yeah. Tell us about your journey.
With pleasure. So I'm from Austria. I started in the duty station in Austria as I have actually a legal background. I started in legal advisory and protocol, and then I moved to, because I have a specialization in human rights, I moved to the Office on Drugs and Crime, where I became a crime prevention expert. And from there, I was detached for an assignment in Lebanon after the assassination of the prime minister at the time. So I worked more in investigations there. It was very fascinating. And then meanwhile, I got a baby and I was looking for a place where my son could go to school. And so I looked for, you know, something a little bit more stable and found a job in Switzerland, where I worked in something that I would call, maybe in the private sector, event management.
Okay.
It was related to the legislative authorities of the United Nations, but still, you know, it was a very different area.
Yeah.
And then we found that we needed some new adventures, and we moved on to New York, where I've shifted to various positions in human resources.
Okay. And that's part of the opportunity that comes once you are employed within the UN system, that you can be able to apply to other countries as well.
Correct. You can apply to any country as long as you fulfill the qualification requirements.
Yeah.
And you can actually also move across organizations.
Okay. Now, how difficult is it? How competitive?
Very good question again. It is surely competitive. And I think if I can give a good advice to anybody who would be interested in joining an international organization, it is learn a new language. That makes you very competitive.
Okay. All right. So that's one, check. You also have to meet the qualifications of the job as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we usually have educational and work experience requirements apart from the languages. Educational requirements for the Secretariat, typically so we have different, as I see here the slide, we have different categories of jobs. So we have more local jobs where you don't need more than a high school diploma. And then what we call international jobs, like, for example, a P3 or a P4, P5. You need a number of work experience that would fit to that particular position. So let's say you apply for a medical position, you should have worked for at least 3 years, or depending on the level of the job, in a medical profession. So you can actually choose, do you want to stay more local? Do you want to go into a supportive role? And you don't want to continue your education, you stay with a high school diploma? That's totally fine for us. Or are you more adventurous and you want to go into the international field and try to make the world a better place outside of your own country? Then we typically would expect you to have a bachelor's or a master's degree and a number of years of experience in the area in which you want to work.
And this is fascinating. So, and because everyone would think, you know, you have to have, at the very least, your master's degree to be able to enter service for the UN. But from the field service, it's high school diploma.
Absolutely. Well, yes, and in particular for GS level. So this stands for General Service. This is really more for people who want to contribute to the mandates of the organization, but they don't think of really moving every few years.
Now, Dion, tell us from your perspective, just, you know, is it, do you think that Belizeans aren't aware of the opportunity, that we don't take advantage of attempting to apply?
I honestly believe that's the situation, because I wasn't aware that we would be able to necessarily qualify for a lot of the United Nations posts that are abroad. So when it was brought to my attention that even internships, which a lot of our students would be interested in starting up, because that provides the experience that a lot of our young people need to be able to get into the world of work. And I personally was not aware, and I feel that I'm well networked.
Yeah.
I know of consultancies that are available within the UN system.
Yeah.
I know of consultancies that are available within the entire multinational structure, but I never knew that there was that capability for these international jobs. For some reason, it always seemed very elusive, and you had to be this caliber that was beyond. And so when we got in touch, it really excited me, because I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of professionals who are interested and would be interested. What I mentioned to the UN team is that right now there are a lot of young people who are now empty nesters, and those are the ones who have that ability to pack up their spouses or their significant others and go to another country and enjoy that, a change of environment with an organization who cares about your health and safety. So realistically, you're going to get that care that you're looking for while living your dream per se, while working in a job that is meaningful to you at this time, where meaningful job openings are very, very limited, especially within Belize. I like the fact that Eva was able to mention that there are teachers, I mean, there are translators. A lot of people are able to go and teach within an English school in a foreign country, which is needed within this environment as well. So the opportunities are really endless.
Yeah.
However, it does take someone who is willing to move. And I know that sometimes within Belize, we don't even want to go and work from Corozal to Belize City, because that's such a distance. So when we set the bold, and Eva can also tell you there are Belizeans in the UN system abroad, and that was what also excited me, because I did know that we have other role models to follow. And to be honest with you, Marlene, I'm excited personally to look into these jobs myself right now. So it's something new for all of us.
And I think you said something key. I think the assumption is that you have to start working at a UN agency locally to eventually move and apply to others around the world. Well, Eva, I'm sure that does help if you have some UN experience already.
Oh, that's another fascinating question. You know, I think most of our vacant positions, and we have thousands of vacant positions per year, actually look for people who are in a mid or senior career point of their lives. And typically the question we get is, I have only experience in the private sector. Is it at all worthwhile for me to apply for a job in the UN? But that's actually what we are looking for. We look for outsiders with a range of experience. And I think one can imagine the UN actually like a company. You don't need to make such a big difference. We look for people who have experience in their field of expertise, and it does not matter whether it is in the UN or not. Now, when you look at positions that are what we call in the field, so more in peacekeeping or peacemaking, obviously, you know, the role expects it from you to have worked in that area. And that does not mean necessarily UN experience, but typically that would be then with a non-governmental organization or eventually with a government. But it always is just catered to the role, and we do not prefer people who have UN work experience, not at all. So we're really looking to increase our diversity. Also, when I talk about diversity, I would like to make the point that we're very open to persons with disabilities, for example. So this is gender, nationalities, any other point you could imagine that would increase the diversity in our workforce would make us extremely happy.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. Now, the application, and perhaps a reason we don't always know, is that you actually have to go out and seek the opportunities. There is a website where all the job openings are posted.
Yes, that's correct. We call that our careers portal.
Okay.
It's careers.un.org. And you will find everything there, also internship opportunities for younger people, any other position, also as Dion mentioned before, consultancies that we also have. Everything is posted there.
Yeah. And you can find jobs from administrative level. I know there's some openings for like IT positions.
Yes.
These
are
correct. Yeah.
One of the interesting parts about our new relationship that's being built is the fact that whenever there are new postings, the Belize Coalition of Service Providers will receive that information. We'll be able to place that on our website, on our Facebook, and of course inform the media because, like I mentioned before, our mandate is to ensure that the service sector gets to export its services, and no clearer indication of doing that than getting them out into the international arena, being able to share the wealth of knowledge and what Belize and Belizeans have to offer. So we're excited about this partnership as well at this time.
Yeah. What's been the reaction so far? I know you've been advocating for people to register for the webinar so they can get all this information. Have you found people interested so far?
Well, actually, I tallied the numbers 3 or 4 days ago, and we already had 80 people signed up. And these 80 people that signed up are, I believe we had 4 PhDs, we had 40 master's persons, I think it was 30 bachelors, and I believe it was 4 at high school level. So we're very impressed because you have to fill in all of those forms and you have to qualify to be a part of the webinar, which is on the 27th of April. And so there has been a lot of interest. In fact, I've been getting emails at the coalition. And so, yes, there is interest. And I believe that it surpassed our KPI for attendees for that session that day already. So we're excited to know that people are serious.
Yeah.
And that's why we wanted to be on your show today, because we know that by people just knowing that it's available is where we start to move forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Eva, when you say our country is underrepresented, meaning we have some Belizeans that do work in the UN system, locally and internationally, of course. Does that mean that we perhaps have a bit of a competitive edge if we don't have as much representation?
Yes, definitely. That's a very competitive edge, absolutely.
Yeah. So our application, if it's put against another country that has a lot of their nationals in the workforce, it will be looked at very closely because we don't have as many Belizeans working within the UN system.
Yes, that's very correct. We actually ask our hiring managers to look particularly for nationals from countries that are underrepresented.
Okay. Now, what do you say to people about the benefits of working in the UN beyond the travel? And I do believe that people are more open now to working in other countries and studying in other countries. But what are some of the other things that you'd like for people to know about working in the UN system?
There are so many things. I think I cannot enumerate them all here, but we will go in detail into this during the webinar. And we are so grateful to Dion for helping us spread the word and organizing this. Let me point out some things that I think in nowadays times become more and more important. I mean, I'm a woman, I have a child. For some time I was a single mom. And, you know, in many workplaces, it's not easy to juggle your private life and your professional life. So the UN is actually a very family-friendly employer. We have high standards of annual leave, of parental leave for both parents. Also, if you adopt a child, we have a very good health and life insurances. We have a very well-funded pension fund. So these are, you know, more on the financial side.
Yeah.
But obviously our salaries, they are competitive. And it's not that, you know, if you're in a high-paying profession in the private sector, it's maybe not comparable. After all, we are the public sector, but we can afford for ourselves and our families a decent life. honestly, I think if you go around in the UN and you ask staff what is it that they appreciate most in their jobs and in being a part of the United Nations, they will tell you it's the people. It's the people with who you work, the mandates that you work towards, and this community that we have, and that then brings, other than only financial aspects. So, for example, going back to your family life, we will help you to allow yourself to have your children in international private schools until they have finished their bachelor's degree, because we know that if you move around in the world, your children will need some type of international education, and we will not leave you alone there and just let you struggle with this. So there's a lot of support for you to have a well-balanced professional and private life.
And of course, having a human rights focus as well ensures that the equality that's built in when we talk about gender stereotypes, also ensuring that family is a priority. These are all added benefits.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that one of the most important things is in today's world where there is a lot of bullying occurring and where there's a lot of toxic workplaces, I believe that within the UN system, from what I've seen so far, that it's a respectful workplace because their organizational tenets and values are actually enforced. And that in itself creates that space that you want to go to work. I also believe that the flexible methodologies, I mean, we are now looking at being able to work at home, but the UN system has had these hybrid work spaces in place for over 10 years now. So there's a lot of value that many of us are now seeing because of COVID as well, but it has been in place. And so it also shows that they are innovative and the technology is at a high level. And I believe that it's a really great environment for you to be able to give back once you've self-actualized, when you're at that 40 age and you're ready to give back and want to make a shift in the world, and whatever you touch is better than it was before. This is really one of the careers that you go into because you're touching the lives of children, of vulnerable communities and vulnerable populations. And if that is really something that you want to do, this is really the place to do it because you're respected while you're trying to respect others.
Now, what happens at the webinar? You said we have to apply to participate in the webinar.
Yes, so you click on the flyer that that we sent out. It has a registration link, and just fill in that data, and then you will get a link to attend the session. We're not able to share the links with our friends once we're on and we like it. It's per person who registers. That's one of the
or send me the recorded video.
Yeah. So you have to register to be a part of it because we need to also know that you qualify so that we can have the speakers that can speak to your particular needs and respond to what it is that you're interested in. So it's very important for persons to register. The cutoff date for registration is actually the 25th so that we can prepare ourselves completely and be ready. The session is going to be held at a very perfect time that we're off of work, 5 o'clock in the evening, so that we can relax and wind down and be a part of it. But I really believe that it's important for us to attend for ourselves or for us to share with family members and friends, Belizean diaspora, who may be interested in being a part of this, especially in this time of joblessness. I believe that this really adds hope to many of us right now.
Yeah. And Eva, there are, what you said, thousands of job openings currently.
Yeah, and if I may add to what Dion just said, in the webinar we will explain to our audience how to apply actually, to make it easier. So we will do some hand-holding through the application process, give some tips on how an interview in the UN looks like, how you can perform well, how you can succeed, just to maybe overcome also the first psychological barriers, because we feel very often that people are shy to apply to the UN. And I think it's worthwhile trying. It's really something that is worth the effort. And I think one of the big benefits and advantages is also that you can choose what you want to do. So nobody will force you to be international or to go to a country where you don't want to go. You pick yourself.
Yeah.
We will show you how to find the right job and how to apply for it and how to be successful in your application.
All right, and so that's a great opportunity. If you have people who will be helping you find the opportunities that exist and also prepare you for the interview. I'm sure your interview is a lot different from people would expect in private sector.
Well, and I would say we try to make it as fair and unbiased as possible. So we really try to embrace everybody who we meet.
All right. Okay, so where do we go to sign up, Dan?
There's a flyer that we have on our Facebook page for the Belize Coalition of Service Providers, and it's also on our website. However, if anybody is interested in having me send it to them via WhatsApp as well, please send me a WhatsApp at +501 610 3883 or email us at chairman@bcsp.org.bz, and I'll be happy to respond and send it back. Like I said, it's an active link. You click on it once you get it, and then you're registered and smooth sailing.
All right. Well, ladies,
I'm sorry, I made an error in the time. It's 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., which is New York time. So if you see that on the, it's really 5:30 Belize time.
Yeah, yeah. It's after work hours Belize time.
Yeah. So you can relax and get comfortable.
Yeah.
So as you look at it, please don't get daunted and think that it's 3:30 New York time that you're seeing there, but it's really 5:30 Belize time.
All right. Well, thank you both for telling us all about this. The webinar takes place on the 27th at 5:30. You do have to register online to participate, and the webinar will be the opportunity to find out more about the job opportunities that do exist, how you can apply, what the process is like, and give you the tips that you need to be successful with your application. Ladies, we appreciate you joining us to tell us all about this, and best of luck.
And thank you so much, Marlene. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Have a great day.
You too.
You too.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and take our final break, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping up the show, so please stay tuned.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking, and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Hello Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at
Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite Vibe calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our equipment are new, PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaker branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
And we're back, and we want to say thank you for tuning in today as we brought to you a one-on-one conversation with Lord Michael Ashcroft, sharing his opinions on what's happening in the country and weighing in on several national issues. And we also want to thank the representatives from the Belize Coalition of Service Providers, as well as the Human Resources Department of the United Nations headquarters, talking about job opportunities that exist there. We do encourage you to apply if you're looking for a new job opportunity, maybe you want to change careers, move out of the country, or just explore something new. You can go to the Belize Coalition of Service Providers webpage and apply to be a part of the webinar and see the opportunities that do exist. And before we close for today, as was mentioned earlier in the interview, Queen Elizabeth is turning, her birthday is actually today, she's turning 95 today. It must be a very bittersweet birthday for her as she just laid her husband to rest, but definitely one that is a milestone in itself. 95 years. Happy birthday to the Queen. And with that, we're going to close off for today. Remember, if you want to get in touch with us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes to start your morning right. Until then, keep your eyes, your mind, and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.